It's time for WFO Radio NHRA Nitro. Here's your host, Joe Castello.
WFO, everyone. Joe Castello here with you, NHRA podcast. We're going to hear from Alan Reinhart, who's going to break down the Gatornationals, as in the Lucas Oil Series categories that ran on Friday at Gainesville Raceway. And we're going to talk a little bit about that and, try to keep the shows going. We're going to have Ron Capps this week. Ron Capps talking about his March meet win. And clearly, there's a lot going on in all of our lives. Everybody knows that. But WFO is going to provide maybe moments of escapism, maybe not. We're going to talk about the issues at hand. But Reinhart will be up in a few minutes. And I just want to thank the people who have sponsored WFO Radio, like Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School at frankhawley.com. I'm still hoping to do the Dragster Adventure on March 27th. We'll see how it all goes. You never know. You never know. Got to do whatever is recommended. Samtech.edu, the School of Automotive Machinists and Technology, your education moving forward, always. Total Seal Piston Rings, the leader in ring seal technology. MagicDryUS.com, the official organic absorbent of the NHRA. And Marvin Rodak, a little Rodak's coffee this morning. Got me started off right. 817-924-6821. I'm sure Marvin is still roasting the coffee fresh per your order, and wouldn't that be nice? A little Rodak's coffee. Those are the people who have supported WFO Radio for this entire year, and I'm going to keep saying their name no matter what. 817-924-6821. All right, let's get to Reinhart. And here he is, the voice of the NHRA. Alan Reinhart joins us now on WFO Radio. Alan, I wish we were talking about Gatornationals Nitro results and the Mellow Yellow Series and what a great weekend we had. But it took an unfortunate turn, as did all other sporting events in the state of Florida and beyond. A bit of a bummer. Did run the Lucas Oil Series categories on Friday. We will talk with you about that. But apparently there's a little news as we are speaking.
Yeah, I mean, I hate it for everybody, really. But it's the right decision. It's what had to be done. We're living in difficult times right now. And, there's things that make you realize that sports are not the most important thing in the world. And we've got to, do what's the best for our fans and for all of our competitors and for everybody. And that was to cancel the pro portion of the event, not fill the stadium up with what would almost assuredly been a sold-out crowd like we had last year, and, run the risk of infecting some of our fans or even some of our competitors. So tough decision, but, there are things more important in life. I've talked to a couple of people at the racetrack, and it's like, as disappointed as you are, and I know some of the fans are legitimately angry, but, you can't get over dead. And that's literally what could be the outcome here if we don't get this pandemic stopped. So, NHRA is on board, as are all the other major sporting sanctioning bodies in the country. And we've got to do what we got to do. Let's get this stopped. Racing we can always come back to.
And a media alert has just gone out as at the time that Alan and I are speaking, and there's always a little delay between the time that Alan and I get on the phone based on our mutual convenience and the time the show gets out to you guys, the listeners. Normally, Alan will come out around Tuesday night. What we'll do in this case is just put it up as soon as we can and get it out there. But as of the time that we are speaking, a media alert has just gone out that says NHRA postponed season for at least 30 days. At this time, we are suspending all NHRA drag racing for 30 days in response to the coronavirus pandemic. The suspension includes events at NHRA-owned tracks and any NHRA-sanctioned events, such as the Mellow Yellow Series and Lucas Oil Series drag racing. We intend at this time to resume the original schedule on April 17th through 19th in Houston and continue thereafter, subject to developments in the interim. The Spring Las Vegas event is postponed with new dates to be determined. Go to lvms.com for more information, et cetera, and so on. And there's a full report. I'm sure you can find it on NHRA.com or on the internet, certainly on the WFO Radio Facebook page. But to me, Alan, this is obviously there's a great conflict in emotions. We were going to do the thing we love the most, go drag racing and be around our friends, but now we cannot because of the direction from leadership in our nation's government, the CDC. Hey, don't do that. It could be bad for, people in your family, your grandmother, your grandfather, that kind of stuff. So we have to do what's best to protect them. That's a conflict, but I am happy and proud that the NHRA is doing the right thing. Initially, NASCAR was going to run in front of no crowd. and IndyCar was going to run in front of no crowd. And then they thought better of it. That's not the way to handle this. They're doing this for a reason, and we have to do our parts.
Well, I think, and believe me, I'm no medical expert by any means, and I'm not pretending to be that. But from everything I've read, one of the real serious problems with this virus is that you can contract it, have it, and spread it, but not show symptoms for 4 or 5 days. And, I remember when I was a kid, if we were going to go visit Grandpa when he was getting up there and, his health wasn't great, if I had the sniffles, I didn't go because they were all worried about, Grandpa getting sick. And I've talked to a number of people who are like, well, it's just the flu. Who cares? You get the flu, you get over the flu. There's no reason to quit doing all this stuff, except A, it's way worse than that. And B, as I said, from everything I've read, with the incubation period. So if somebody, let's just, Schumacher, okay, one of the major teams, one of the guys gets it, I don't know, shake hands with somebody at a truck stop, bumps into whatever, he gets it. Well, now by the time he gets there, sets up, they're all sharing food, sharing tables, sharing tools, sharing stuff. The first time he sneezes, he's already infected 30 people on the team or 60 people on the team. And that's where, that's where the real concern is. And it's obviously the same with our fans, but I think that's why, the other sanctioning bodies decided that racing in front of empty grandstands isn't protecting our people. It's protecting our fans potentially, but it's not protecting our people. As soon as the one NBA player tested, NBA said, that's it, we quit. Because same thing, he's out there on the floor with 4 other guys on his team, 5 guys on the other team, and then, probably potentially interacting with 20 guys on the floor, not to mention the people in the locker room and the people. By the time he sneezes the first time, he's already given it to 25 or 30 other people. And that's what has to be stopped. And so, I hate the fact that we're not going racing, but I think there's way more important things than racing. Let's get this under control, and then we can always go back to racing.
Such a great attitude. I don't need to add any more to that. There will always be people that just refuse the directive, but I think we're doing the right thing. And the medical system can only handle so many people at once. I thought I saw someone post something about this. What's happening with toilet paper right now, everybody's going out to get toilet paper. Imagine if that happens with hospital beds and the emergency room, like just everybody showing up at once. And that's what we're trying to prevent. And I hope that most of America understands. And I think that they do. Now, that having all been said, let's move forward.
Well, I think if we could just touch one more thing. I think,
yes.
And the fact that the race is Gainesville, I think, makes it worse on a couple of things. If it's Phoenix, okay, the vast majority of people that come to Phoenix are from Arizona. There'll be a few come over from California, but, the vast majority of people that come to the event in Phoenix are from Phoenix. So they'll be disappointed. But you know what? If we come back to Phoenix, next month or 6 weeks or 3 months, whatever, they're still going to be there. And part of the issue with Gainesville is it is a destination race. So many of the fans come from other parts of the country or even other parts of the world to come to Gainesville. And I think that makes it more difficult for them, both from the disappointment level and the fact that, hey, they spent money, they took time off work, they did all this to come to the race that they don't get to see. So I understand them being disappointed about it. But it also means that an infection that broke out in the stadium potentially now goes back to 25 other states or overseas or more airplanes and I think that it is just a bigger issue in Gainesville. Not saying that if it were in Phoenix, it would have been okay to race, but I think it's a bigger issue in Gainesville for that reason. I think that, the fans have every right to be disappointed, but this is certainly something, that's way beyond our control. And it wasn't like NHRA just decided to do this and we didn't care about everybody. It's something that had to be done. And as you mentioned, from national government to local government, everybody was in on this is something that just has to be done. And so that's, I think that was a call that was made and had to be.
Absolutely. And there it is. That having been said, the Sportsman or Lucas Oil Series portion of the Gatornationals were run on Friday from start to finish because all those racers were already there. And it was best to just take that time and finish their race that they had come to participate in and send them down the road to be home You were there for that. You called the action. Those people who held up the Wally at the end of the day are still 51st annual Amalie Motor Oil NHRA Gatornationals wins. And the victory is a great accomplishment. And I want to take a few minutes to talk about those people. You were there. You're our eyes in the tower. So, tell us what you heard, and we'll go category by category, I guess. Starting off with stock eliminator, we did have a double.
Yes, David Latino was able to pull the double with stock and super stock. Anthony Bertozzi was trying to do the same thing in top dragster and super stock. But, Latino was just on a roll. And anybody that's ever raced or competed in anything knows what it's like. You just have those days when, you can't seem to do anything wrong. And if you make a mistake, then your opponent makes a bigger mistake, and you get away with it and keep rolling. And that's what David was doing. It's been a while since he'd been in the winner's circle. But, he was just flat unstoppable on Friday. And I think I don't want to just keep beating on this, but there's another thing that has come up a lot, and I get, my announcer email is like, well, obviously you didn't care about the sportsmen if you let them race. But I think it's a completely different thing. One, we didn't let the crowd come in, which, on Friday, if they'd had the nitro cars qualifying, would have been. But two, the sportsman thing, I think, is a very different thing. The vast majority of the sportsman teams are 1, 2, 3, 4 people maybe. They're in the same trailer. They're in the same motorhome. If there's an issue, it's going to be pretty much contained there. It's not the same as a professional team that has 10, 12, or, again, in the case of Schumacher or Force, as many as 50, 60 people that are going to be interacting with everybody. And so I don't think that the risk was nearly as great because, hypothetically speaking, if I contacted it someplace, I'm already going to give it to the guy that's in my trailer, and it's not going to make any difference if we're racing or if we just load the motorhome and go home. The two of us are still going to be together. So I don't think that running that was, it wasn't like we were putting a lot of people into the same room, into the same area, into the same stadium that wouldn't have already been together. And since they had time trialed and qualified on Thursday, I think it made an easy decision to go, okay, guys, Friday, let's run it. Let's get this done. And that'll at least be a few people that won't be nearly as affected when we have to try to reschedule and come back.
Oh, I think that's an excellent point you make. And I had seen some of those comments and quotes out there. And, Alan, it frustrates me. Coming from a military family, my dad would always say, when you're in a column of 1,000 guys and there's going to be leadership that you have to follow, the person who is just constantly, complaining about that leadership, whatever it is, up, down, left, right, etc., it's just not a good thing. Now, I get everybody has an opinion and all, but those posts that I saw, they very much frustrated me. Like, really? That's what you think? And in this critical moment, you're going to suggest that somebody doesn't care about somebody? And come on. But you answered it very well, a very diplomatic and intelligent way. Frankie Aragona, run it up. Red light start. Bummer for Frankie.
Yeah, Frank, driving the 69 Camaro that he had in stock. And, it ended up both the Latinos' final rounds ended with red lights in the other lane. So, as I said, it was just one of those days when he couldn't do anything wrong. And, good on him. You just keep loading it up, and if somebody can't knock you off, come back and try it again.
There it is. Yeah, Bertozzi with a 005 red light in super stock. So congratulations, David Latino. Huge day. Tremendous. It would have been better if it happened, on Sunday in front of a massive crowd, but what are you going to do? Meanwhile, Jonathan Anderson, Greg Slack, final round, super gas, and Anderson picking up the win.
And Greg Slack been on quite a roll. Remember, he won the Baby Gators. That's that Ford Maverick, the kind of unique combination with a small block. But he had won the race the week before and was on another pretty good run until he got to the final. But just came one round short of the classic Baby Gator and Big Boy Gator double up.
And looking good, like World Championship points are still being collected. So you start out first two races, a winner and a runner-up. You've got a nice positioning regarding that. In Super Comp, Ray Miller III. And this is a story we didn't really cover so much, Alan, because it's, people's personal private business. But Ray had a very tough offseason. He was not well. And he's posted all about it, personal medical issues, illness, etc. To go from where he was and winning the championship to coming out, Gatornationals first race, final round, 007, dead 5.
And that was one of his worst rounds. He was absolutely locked in. It was either the semis or the quarters that he put up a 5-pack. He, I think he came out on a mission, having the number one on the side of the car. and all that he went through. I spoke at length with his dad, actually about some other issues, but the subject of Ray came up, and he said 22 days he was in the hospital, and was in and was released, and okay, everything's fine, and then 2 weeks later, back in again, and they were genuinely concerned about whether he was even going to make it, but he was able to get through that, put it behind him, and I think he's on a mission. He's been a championship contender and part of the conversation for the last 4 or 5 years. Finally won it last year, and I think having that big target on the side and having the extra incentive of what he went through during the winter break, he's going to be tough all year.
Yes, and excellent racer, great kid. I'm just looking at scanning the semifinals, right? Troy Coughlin Jr., Troy Williams Jr., a couple of excellent bracket racers just got eviscerated in the semis. Williams 004, breaking out 12th thou to that 5-pack for Ray III. Just amazing the level of competition in the .90 categories right now. Competition Eliminator. This was interesting. Brad Plourd goes out there, gets it done over Wes Leopold Jr. And Brad, that's been a fast hot rod. Every time it rolls out, though, he's got a good shot.
Yeah, it's an incredible car. It's the AA altered on methanol that belongs to Harry Schwartz. And what they have done to make that thing drivable, I think, is as impressive as anything. You've seen enough of those cars over the years. How often do they go straight 6 races in a row? And that thing just constantly is making good, clean runs down the racetrack. Brad is playing real smart with the index. He knows, when he's got to use some up and when maybe it's better to just give up the round and save it for another day. But, he's driving well. The car's running well. They were in the championship conversation until late into the year last year, ended up ultimately finishing 3rd. So I think that team has got something that they feel like they want to prove this year.
And we did one of the Attention in the Pits shows towards the tail end of last year, all you listeners out there, with Brad about that car. He sits in the cockpit. He shows us what he's doing and what it's like, and it's really amazing. You can go find that on NHRA's YouTube channel or Facebook page if you search around a little bit. In the Vortex Superchargers Top Sportsman Eliminator, Sandy Wilkins, another champ, getting a big win. Sandy, great guy, excellent racer, and starting off strong in his title defense.
And it's interesting, too, because he was pretty much spot on all day. Might be the worst run that he made was in the final, but the guy who was racing in the final was worse. And, again, going back to kind of like the Dave Latino thing, when he needed to be good, he was good. And when he wasn't good, the other guy was worse. And when you're having a day like that, there's just no stopping it. I think it'll be interesting to see how much Sandy races this year. He's now opened his own business as opposed to, working for Roush when he was pretty well able to schedule whatever time he needed and get away and work the races into his business schedule. But now that he's the boss and he owns his own business, he, got a little bit of a later start. He was hoping to run some races earlier in the season, but literally just couldn't get away from the business. So I'm not sure exactly how much racing he's going to be able to do this year. When you open the doors on a new business, being so busy that you can't get away is a beautiful thing because, how many of those new businesses, go broke in the first year or in the first 2 years simply because they haven't been able to get established customers and establish a base and get the work coming in. So when you're as new as he is, to be as busy as he is truly a blessing. And if it means he's going to have to miss some races and not necessarily defend his championship, I think right now he's going, so be it. We got to get this new venture up and running. And again, like I said earlier, racing will always be there, but this is something we got to get. It's going to require all of our attention right now,
and rightfully so. And rightfully so. Good for Sandy. He's already a champ. He's got nothing to prove. Build the business. Come back. He's going to be outfitting a lot of racers with power, and he can always come back and do more. And he's already won the Gatornationals. Like talk about an exclamation point on a championship season. And we've seen that often. A champ comes out, and the start of the next year, they're able to carry over their success. Top dragster, Baby Luis, and Anthony Bertazzi, and Luis picking up the win. Dead on.
Yeah, and, 2 of the faster cars in the category that were chasing most of the day. And just in the final round, Anthony missed it a little bit, and Ross made him pay. That's those guys. It's amazing to me as fast as the cars are. I've pretty much gotten to the point, in stock, super stock, even in super gas, for the most part, if you're within 4 or 5 on the reaction time, I don't consider you out of the race. You know what I'm saying? If you're 30 and I'm 70, I still think, okay, this could be a race. But when you're in top dragster, those guys are so locked down that it's gotten to the point now, if one guy's 10 and the other guy's 30, you can almost just sort of down on the ladder because that's just almost too big to overcome. And that's kind of what happened to Anthony in the final. He missed it a little bit, and Baby Larice was, locked the door down at the other end. I don't want to call it a practice tree race at this point, but, the guys in top dragster, most of them are so good that if one's 10 and the other one's 35 on the tree, the race is pretty much over. You can almost just start penciling the name down on the sheet for the next round because it's amazing how consistent those cars are considering how quick and fast they are.
Simple as that. Congratulations to all the winners out there at the 51st Amalie Motor Oil NHRA Gatornationals. While you're giving us the breakdown, I'm scanning some other news, and not to put to find a point on it, but there has been a lot of people that I have encountered that are just questioning, like, well, why is this all happening? And Competition Plus has got a release coming up from the Australian National Drag Racing, and they have halted their series as well in response to the rapidly changing developments around the COVID-19. Australian National Drag Racing Association, ANDRA, is issued the following update. And so that's the way I look at it. Like, Australia is as far as you can get from where we are, and they're dealing with the same thing in the same way. If that doesn't tell you, number one, it's serious and to be considered and respected, and two, that they're reacting the same way that we're reacting on the same sport, if nothing else, there's consistency, that tells me all I need to know.
I heard on the radio today that your recommendations was to not have a gathering of more than 50 people if you could help it. And, the recommendation was, if you're talking about a wedding, if you're talking about a convention, and on my drive today, every school I passed was closed. And I think that, the whole, we need to stop the spread. And so everybody's kind of going in, personal lockdown, so to speak, or at least staying away from the large groups and the big crowds. And if that's what we've got to do for, 4 weeks or 6 weeks or whatever it takes to get this thing under control, then I think that's what we need to do.
Absolutely. Just like in World War II, kids going out there collecting scrap metal and people sacrificing at home to win that war, we are going to be asked to do some things and be inconvenienced, and we need to do what we're asked to do so that we can, win this war. It's a little different, maybe not exactly a perfect analogy, but sometimes you got to do things that inconvenience you personally for a greater good, worldwide, nationwide, etc. Alan, great job as usual. Any final thoughts before we part ways? I will tell you, our guest this week, Ron Capps, he won the March meet, got some Facebook and Twitter communications like they'd love to hear him. He won a fuel altered in AA fuel altered at the March meet. It was like a lifelong goal, and he accomplished it. So we're going to hear from Capps and get his perspective on that. That'll be our guest this week as we continue WFO. Even though we're not going to be drag racing, I think there's going to be some things to talk about, and at very least keep the normalcy of our conversation if you're up for it.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I think that some of the teams unquestionably will be out testing. Everybody's certainly going to be going back to the shop and working. Everybody's just going to be working with a whole lot more diligence and a whole lot more paying attention to somebody sneezing or just the whole thing is just let's get this stopped and then we can get back to normal. But I think as with any of the race teams, I've said before that when you're working on a professional race team, if you didn't have a race to go to, you'd never be completely ready to go. You've always got something else you want to do or something else you want to work on or something else. And I think that's the project that the race teams are going to be looking at tackling right now. And so when we get back after it, they're going to be as prepared as they've ever been. And, we'll just have to wait and see what happens with the schedule. I'm reasonably sure that both Gainesville and Vegas will end up plugged in someplace. I don't know where at this point in time, but, it might turn out where 4 in a row seems like a vacation before we're done.
Midweek drag. Okay, I don't want to start any rumors, but we can we can say that there is no one who wants to go back racing more, like maybe as much as Alan Reinhart, but certainly not more than Alan Reinhart. But it's the right thing to do now, and we'll see. It's going to be a unique year, no matter what.
Well, I will certainly be ready when they say it's time to go again. And in the meantime, I'm going to do what everybody else is doing. I'm going to just kind of try to lay low a little bit and stay healthy. I think that's the most important thing right now.
Absolutely. Alan, great job as usual. Thank you for taking your time. We'll try to connect next week and, just update the situation and check in with some different folks and keep WFO going, and I appreciate that.
All right, Joe. We'll talk soon.
Thank you, Alan. Alan Reinhart, voice of the NHRA and balanced individual management style. And what can you say? Now is a very tough time. I would love to focus solely on drag racing, but everybody is dealing with a very difficult challenge right now. And a lot of people are just unwilling to accept the annoyance, the aggravation, the fact that they're going to be inconvenienced. And it is sad. It is sad. You can see it. The Facebook is one of the worst places right now where just anger and irritation and blame all going out there top to bottom. But what we're going to do on WFO is we're going to try to keep the conversation going about mostly positive things. Like we're going to have Ron Capps on. He's going to talk about his March meet win in the AA fuel altered category. That's going to be fun. But you cannot escape the fact that we're all reacting to this situation altogether, which I actually think is great. You know, what's going on is a few weeks ago on the Ignition Show, we were talking about the Tennessee tornadoes situation. There were some tornadoes that ripped through Tennessee. And I personally, and I admit this, I didn't really think of it because it's not happening here. It didn't enter my world other than the news. And then I realized, wait, I've got a bunch of people that I know in Tennessee, and they could be hurting right now. Let me think about them and reach out to them or check their Facebook pages and make sure that everybody's okay. But it took a little while to penetrate, right? The shield of responsibility that we all have, things that we're thinking about in our lives, like trying to accomplish what we need to accomplish. It happens here in South Florida, where WFO Radio is based, when a hurricane is coming. You know, a big hurricane is coming right at us. If you're in Wyoming or if you're in Washington State or somewhere else that's not dealing with a hurricane, you're not dealing with a hurricane. So you don't know what it's like to go to the grocery store and everything is gone. Or you just got back from the U.S. Nationals and you're a couple of days behind everybody and it's coming and everything is purchased already. It's gone and it's not coming. It's not coming. Like, these are difficult things for a certain region. Texas has seen it. Everybody has their own regional issues, right? This is not regional. This is affecting the whole world all at the same time. Australian drag racing and American drag racing have the same statement for the most part, right? Like, we're not going to race because of this thing. What is it? What's sad is that there are still a lot of people that are vested in misinforming their friends. Like, nah, it's no big deal. It's just like the flu. Like, I've seen a lot of people say that and tell me that. It's like, I don't know, man. I don't want my dad to get the flu. Even right now, like, I don't want him to get the flu, let alone something else. And people are carrying it around and they don't even know it and they're spreading it to 50 people. But I also know this. Man, it was hard. I did the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame. Like, there are certain aspects of it that are really challenging. Like, when someone comes up and goes to shake your hand, you see someone and you haven't seen them for a while and they go to shake your hand and they're like, hey, man, good to see you. And I'm like, man, this person, they're happy to see me. That's great. And you just stick your hand out there and you shake it. It's like, we got to relearn that, at least for a while. And there's plenty of people that'll be like, no, just shake it and deal with the consequences. And then, I don't know, what would the consequences be for me? I bring it home to my father. He's older. He gets sick. Big mistake. Bad consequence. Playing Russian roulette. No thanks. So here's the deal. WFO will continue. We're going to have great guests. This week, it's going to be Alan Reinhart, Ron Capps. Next week, we will continue the show. The archive is totally loaded. There's Ignition shows. There's a whole lot of fun. We spoke with Michael McDowell. Yeah, this is a problem, too. NASCAR, IndyCar, Formula One, sports, all entertainment. It's kind of on the sidelines. So WFO is going to continue. I have no idea what we're going to talk about on the Ignition show, but we are going to continue. I put out a special message for the Patreons as well. And what can we say? We're going to just make our way as best as we can. We're going to do it together. We're going to help each other. We're going to stand together. We're going to support each other as best as possible. Those that want to be supported and want to be helpful and want to agree to that. That's what we're going to do on WFO. And we'll try our best to get through this as best as we can. The inconvenience and the annoyance and the boredom, it's going to be all of that. And, I mention the sponsor names at the beginning and the end of every show, and, who knows what's going on right now with that. But I'm not necessarily saying them so you can run out and buy their product, but so you can know the people who supported me and my endeavor to do this show. And regardless of what happens in the next 10 days or 30 days, these are people who are still worthwhile. And I want to mention them. samtech.edu. Like, education is forever. Simple as that. Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School, Frank and Lana Hawley, big supporters of WFO Radio, and I thank them. Total Seal Piston Rings, supporters of WFO Radio, and I thank them. MagicDryUS.com. You're still going to need spills cleaned up. People are still going to need to buy products and continue to work in the shops. MagicDryUS.com and RoadAxeCoffeeandGrills.com. A great way to make yourself happy with a little freshly roasted Road Axe coffee. Marvin, 817-924-6821. I owe him a phone call. I'm calling you, Marvin. Be ready. All right, everybody, that's going to do it. Thank you so much. Yeah, this is it's not what we want, but we'll get through it. And this is where I think about historic times like Winston Churchill, the Battle of Britain, and thinking about World War II and the Nazis were close to overwhelming them. And he rallied his people, and his people allowed themselves to be rallied. They did not say no. And that's what we need to do. And another quote from that era, from our side of the pond: we have nothing to fear but fear itself. WFO.
WFO! The views and opinions of the hosts, guests, or callers do not necessarily reflect that of the station ownership, advertisers, or agencies.
I love WFO Radio.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking gourmet coffee. We're talking hot sauces. We're talking spice rubs. We're talking everything good at RoadAxeCoffeeandGrills.com. Marvin Rodak, been doing it since the 70s. Figured out that life is better with great coffee. And oh, he's so right. 817-924-6821. Call Marvin. He'll roast up some coffee fresh for you. Throw in some hot sauce, some spice rub, and you will be loving it. Hit him up, RoadAxeCoffeeandGrills.com. Hey, engine builders, Total Seal piston rings are the leader in ring seal technology, and they go out of their way to help their customers and will make custom sets for any specific piston you might have. Customer service, top notch. Made in America? Absolutely. They're located in Phoenix, Arizona, and they've got everything it takes to develop the world's best piston rings. Give them a call at 800-874-2753 or go to TotalSeal.com.
Start your education at full speed with the School of Automotive Machinists and Technology. Accelerate your career as a high-performance engine builder with classroom instruction and practical hands-on experience in the lab, on the dyno, and at the track. In addition to the blockhead and CNC programs, SAM now offers motorsport, EFI tuning, and an Associates of Applied Science degree. And SAM is a military-friendly school, approved to train veterans and other eligible persons under the GI Bill. Start your education at full speed. Go to samtech.edu today.
Attention adrenaline junkies, Frank Hawley's Dragster Adventure is calling you. Rides available for the 2020 season. Go to frankhawley.com. They're coming to a track near you. It makes a great gift, and you know the holidays are coming, whether it be licensing for super comp, super gas, all the way up to top alcohol, they can do it. But if you're a drag racing fan and you've always imagined what it might be like to drive a dragster, to accelerate 0 to 60 in 3 seconds and run 10s in the quarter mile, give them a call. 866-480-7223, frankhawley.com, the Dragster Adventure, and tell them you heard it on WFO. You're working in the shop, you've got spills, you've spilled oil, it's everywhere. What are you going to do? I know what you're going to do, but that's not the best way to do it. The best way to do it is to go to magicdryus.com and order the official organic absorbent of the National Hot Rod Association, Magic Dry. It's lighter, it absorbs more, it's better for the environment. It's made out of coconut. It's made in America. magicdryus.com. They've got spill kits that include everything you need for a regular, normal household spill, all the way up to a large industrial spill. We always say, if you've got a cat, get Cat Spot. If you've got a shop, if you've got a factory, if you've got a spill, call Magic Dry. That's magicdryus.com.
Subscribe to WFO Radio on iTunes. Never miss a show. And don't forget to write a review. WFO.
This is WFO Radio.